I grew up in a small town where nothing ever really happened. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, where stories and superstitions lingered longer than they should. The town had one legend that everyone knew but never spoke about: the abandoned railway tunnel on the outskirts of town. It had been there for decades, long before I was born, buried beneath the thick forests that grew wild and untamed. The tracks leading to it were rusted, covered in weeds, as if nature itself was trying to erase its existence. People whispered about it, said it was cursed, that people who went in never came out. It was always dismissed as a ghost story, something to scare children into staying away. But I never forgot the way adults avoided the subject, how their eyes darkened at the mention of it. I never believed in ghosts, not really, until the night I went inside. It started as a bet. A group of us, 5 friends, restless and reckless, decided to go out drinking in the woods one summer night. We sat around a small fire, laughing, daring each other to do something stupid. Then someone brought up the tunnel. It was Derek, always the loudest, always the first to prove he wasn't afraid. He said it was all nonsense, that people just got lost, that our town loved making up stories. He grinned, eyes flickering in the firelight, and dared us to go inside. We followed him. The entrance stood before us, a black hole in the hillside, swallowing the night. The bricks lining the tunnel were cracked, some crumbling, others covered in faded graffiti from kids who had been brave enough to get this far. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and something else, something rotten. The deeper we walked, the more the world outside disappeared, swallowed by Our flashlights barely cut through the dark. Every sound, our footsteps, our breathing, felt like an intrusion. The walls were lined with symbols, strange markings that didn't belong to any language we recognized. Some looked fresh. Then we saw it. An old railway car, rusted and broken, sitting on the tracks deep inside the tunnel. It shouldn't have been there. The tunnel had been sealed off for decades. There was no way it could have gotten in. And yet, it was waiting for us. The doors were open. There were footsteps in the dust, leading inside. But they didn't lead out. Derek laughed, said it was just an old train car, probably dragged in by a construction crew years ago. Before we could stop him, he climbed inside. His flashlight beam swept across the interior. Broken seats, shattered windows, something dark streaked across the floor. Then the air changed. A low hum filled the tunnel, like a deep vibration, something too low, too wrong to be human. Derek stopped moving. We called his name. He didn't answer. His flashlight flickered once. Then it went out, and in the dark we heard it, a scraping sound, something dragging itself across the floor of the train car. Then Derek screamed. Not a normal scream, a sound of pure, raw terror, the kind that changes you, the kind that doesn't come from a prank or a joke, the kind that means something is coming for you. His flashlight flicked back on for just 1 second, and in that second we saw what was inside the train with him. Not a person, not an animal. Something wrong, something that used to be human. Its mouth was open too wide, its hands were too long, its eyes were black voids, bottomless and empty, its skin stretched too tight, too thin, its veins black and pulsing beneath the surface, and it was smiling. The light died again, and so did the screaming. We ran. We didn't think, we didn't look back, we just ran, lungs burning, legs shaking, tripping over rocks and broken tracks. We ran until we burst out of the tunnel and into the night air, into the safety of the trees and the wind and the stars above. But Derek never came out. The police never found a body, just his flashlight shattered on the tunnel floor. The town still doesn't talk about the tunnel. And now, some nights, if you stand near the entrance, you can still hear the train humming, waiting for its next passenger. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is that I still dream about it, about the train, about the thing inside. And every time, the dream is the same. I am standing outside the tunnel, and I can see it. The old railway car, waiting, its rusted doors slightly open. I hear Derek's voice calling my name, whispering from the darkness. Come back. I wake up gasping, covered in sweat, the sound of the hum still ringing in my ears. 2 nights ago I woke up and my bedroom door was open. I know I loved it. I know something was standing there, and now I hear it, even when I'm awake. The hum, the same low vibration from inside the tunnel. It's getting closer, and I think it won't just be a dream.